As you can
Their
see on the
empire
star map,
stretched
the Grisen
across
fleet's
galaxies,
maneuver was tactically
crushing
sound,
species far
despite the heavy
stronger,
losses.
far
Heavy
more
losses?
advanced than
They were
humanity.
annihilated.
Civilizations made of fire, metal, and energy had all fallen before them. So when their fleet arrived at Earth, they expected nothing more than another easy victory. High Commander Sirek stood aboard his flagship, Eternal Silence, staring at the small blue planet below. Earth. Primitive, divided, weak. His intelligence officer summarized decades of observation. Humans fought each other constantly. They divided themselves by race, borders, beliefs. They polluted their own world. They even possessed weapons capable of destroying themselves. To the Velrath, this wasn't a threat. It was a species already halfway defeated. Estimated time to subjugation, Sirek asked. 6 rotations, the officer replied calmly. 5 if they surrender quickly. Sirek smiled. Begin the approach. Across Earth's skies, 400 Velrath warships emerged from behind the moon. They blocked out the stars. Cities froze, sirens screamed, billions looked up at the sky and saw death. Then Sirek spoke to the entire planet. People of Earth, your world now belongs to us. You have 1 hour to surrender. Resist, and we will burn your cities to ash. He ended the transmission and waited. On every other world, surrender came within minutes. Leaders begged, armies collapsed, civilizations broke. But this time, nothing happened. No response. No panic broadcasts. No negotiations. Just silence. Complete global silence. Then suddenly, a single transmission broke through. Calm, steady, clear. And speaking in perfect Velrath. You have made a mistake. Sirek laughed. It didn't matter what they said. They were still primitives. Deploy ground forces, he ordered. Thousands of dropships fell toward Earth. Cities were targeted, armies mobilized. The invasion had begun. But deep beneath the surface, humanity wasn't preparing to surrender. For 30 years, they had been watching, learning, studying alien technology. And when the fleet appeared, something unprecedented happened. Nations that had been enemies for centuries stood together. Old wars ended in hours. Because for the first time in human history, everyone agreed on one thing. They would not kneel. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the Velrath encountered something they had never seen before. Humans didn't retreat. They attacked. They charged directly into superior firepower. Even when they knew they would die. They kept coming. A pilot crashed his aircraft into a Velrath war machine. A wounded soldier crawled forward with explosives. Civilians fought from homes, streets, rooftops. Even children laid traps. And the most disturbing part, some of them were smiling. Velrath commanders grew confused. Then concerned. Then afraid. Because for every human they killed, more appeared. For every tactic they used, humans adapted. And for the first time in their long history, the Velrath began to realize something terrifying. This wasn't a weak species. This wasn't a broken world. This was something else entirely. The Velrath were winning. At least, that's what the numbers said. They controlled territory. They destroyed cities. They killed millions. But something wasn't right. Because no matter how much damage they caused, humans didn't stop. Ground Commander Veth stared at battlefield footage in disbelief. Explain this, he demanded. His officer hesitated. They're advancing. Advancing, Veth snapped. That's impossible. But it was. On every front, humans were doing the unthinkable. They were pushing forward into superior firepower. They weren't retreating. They weren't regrouping. They weren't surrendering. They were attacking. Veth watched the footage again. Human soldiers charged across open ground. Most of them died, but the ones behind them didn't slow down. They ran faster, louder, angrier, as if death itself wasn't something to avoid, but something to use. More reports came in. Disturbing ones. Civilians were fighting. Not fleeing, not hiding. Fighting. An elderly woman took down 2 Velrath soldiers from her window. Children lured patrols into traps. A farmer built an explosive from basic chemicals and destroyed an entire landing craft. He died in the blast. Witnesses said he was smiling. Veth contacted other commanders. Everywhere it was the same. Beijing, Moscow, Tokyo, London. Factories turned into weapon labs. Homes turned into fortresses. Entire populations became combatants. "We're still winning," one officer said. Veth looked at the casualty reports. Thousands of Velrath soldiers gone. For every city captured. They paid in blood. Too much blood. Then came the first real shock. Day 3. A Velrath soldier was killed by a weapon that shouldn't exist. Humans had rebuilt alien tech from wreckage. Day 5. Velrath communications were jammed. Day 7. A human sniper eliminated a commander from 2 kilometers away, using a modified rifle. They were learning. Vast. Too far. Sent. Veth requested a direct report to High Commander Sirac. "The projections were wrong," he said. Sirac's expression darkened. "They are primitives." "No," Veth replied quietly. "That's what we thought." He brought up human war footage, centuries of it. Conflicts, revolutions, world wars. Endless violence. "We saw this as weakness," Veth said. "But I think it's the opposite." Sirac said nothing. So Veth continued. "Every generation of humans has fought. They've been killing each other for thousands of years. They've studied war longer than we've existed as an empire." He paused. "For them, war isn't new. It's familiar." Sirac leaned forward. "No species is comfortable with war." Veth shook his head. "This one is." He showed more footage. A wounded soldier dragging himself forward to keep fighting. A doctor operating while explosions shook the building. Children running messages through war zones. "They don't fear death the way other species do," Veth said. "They've given it meaning." Silence filled the room. For the first time, Sirac didn't have an answer. "How long until victory?" he finally asked. Veth hesitated. "I don't know." And that was something no Velrath commander had ever said before. Because every day this war continued. Humans weren't getting weaker. They were getting better. Stronger. More dangerous. And deep down, even if he wouldn't say it aloud, Veth had begun to suspect something unthinkable. This might be a war they couldn't win. 3 months into the invasion, everything changed. The Velrath still held territory, but it was shrinking. Every day, the red zones on their maps grew smaller. Every day, humans pushed them back. High Commander Sirac stood on the bridge, staring at the reports. "They should have surrendered by now," he said quietly. Every projection said 6 rotations. It has been 90. His intelligence officer spoke carefully. "Our projections were based on other species." Sirac's voice hardened. "And humans are not like other species." New reports flooded in. Worse than before. Humans had done something impossible. They had cracked Velreth's shield technology. In an underground bunker, human scientists studied captured equipment. They found patterns, frequencies, weak points, and then they built devices to disable the shields. Suddenly, Velrath's soldiers weren't untouchable anymore. They were vulnerable, and humans noticed. Captured plasma weapons began appearing in human hands. At first, they simply used them. Then they modified them, improved them, changed them into something new. Something the Velrath had never designed and never expected. In Seoul, a 17-year-old built a device that shut down Velrath electronics. She shared the design online. Within days, it spread across the entire planet. Velrath systems began to fail. Vehicles shut down mid-battle. Communications went dark. Soldiers found themselves isolated, surrounded, hunted, and then came something even worse. Fear. Velrath soldiers were afraid. Some refused to sleep. Some requested transfers. Some ended their own lives. Sirach read one report over and over. They do not die like other species. They do not beg. They do not break. They laugh. Another report. A human soldier, legs destroyed, crawled forward with grenades in both hands. Not to escape, but to attack. Sirach lowered the report slowly. For the first time in his life, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Why don't they surrender? He asked. No one answered. Because there was no logical answer. Humans didn't calculate survival like other species. They didn't measure odds. They didn't stop when victory became impossible. They fought, because that's what they had always done. Ice ages, plagues, wars, disasters that should have ended them. And every time, they survived. Sirach looked at Earth again, not as a prize, but as something else. Something dangerous. We didn't invade a weak world, he said quietly. We kicked a hornet's nest. And now, the hornets were coming. 6 months into the war, the Velrath were no longer in control. They were surviving. Barely. It started with something impossible. Humans reached space. Not with advanced fleets. Not with perfect ships. But with whatever they could build. Scrap metal, stolen parts, broken systems. And sheer will. The first attack hit a Velrath supply ship near the moon. 12 humans boarded it. 12. Against an entire alien crew. They fought their way through the ship. Room by room. Hull by hull. They all died. Every single one. But before they did, they destroyed the ship. More attacks followed. Every week, another Velrath vessel was hit. Sometimes the humans failed. Sometimes they succeeded. But they never stopped coming. On Earth, the war shifted again. 3 major cities, Moscow, Jakarta, Buenos Aires, were retaken in a single night. Perfect coordination. Perfect timing. Across continents. Sirach demanded answers. How are they communicating? He Sked. We jam everything. The answer came from a dying human engineer. You can't stop us from talking to each other. We've been doing it for 10,000 years. Humans built new networks, underground cables, hidden satellites, ancient coded languages. They adapted faster than the Velrath could respond. Then came the drones. Simple, cheap, deadly. Human engineers built them from wreckage, loaded them with explosives, and sent them straight into Velrath ships. No escape. No defense. No warning. Sirach lost his second-in-command that way. One moment alive. The next gone. On the ground it was worse. Velrath patrols vanished. Entire units wiped out in ambushes. One survivor was found days later. Shaking, broken. Repeating the same words. They came out of the walls. The Velrath weren't hunting anymore. They were being hunted. Sirach contacted the Dominion Council. His voice no longer confident. The situation has changed, he admitted. We are not advancing. We are holding. The council demanded an explanation. How could a primitive species resist them? Sirach gave them the truth. The one thing they didn't want to hear. We were wrong about humans, he said. Their wars didn't weaken them. They trained them. He paused, then said the part that mattered most. They do not surrender. They would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Silence filled the channel. What do you recommend? The council asked. Before Sirach could answer, alarms exploded across the ship. Humans had boarded the flagship. Not defending anymore. Attacking. And this time, they had come for him. Alarms screamed across the flagship. Red lights flashed. Smoke filled the corridors. The humans had breached the ship. High Commander Sirach ran toward the bridge, weapon in hand. Bodies of Velrath soldiers lined the halls. His best troops. Gone. By the time he reached the command room, it was already over. 7 humans stood inside, surrounded by hundreds of fallen Velrath. Armor broken, weapons scarred, but still standing. At their center, a woman stepped forward. One arm missing. One eye covered. Blood still fresh on her bandages. High Commander Sirach, she said calmly. My name is Colonel Maya Tors. Sirach raised his weapon. You will die here. She didn't flinch. Probably. Then she said something that stopped him cold. But you will hear the message first. The humans spread out, blocking exits, not attacking, not rushing. They weren't here to kill him. They were here to send a message. Tors walked to the viewing screen. Earth floated below, scarred, burning, but still alive. You expected us to break, she said. You expected surrender. She turned. Her one eye locked onto him. You were wrong. Sirach answered coldly. Your people are dying. Your cities are destroyed. Tors nodded slowly. True. Then she took one step closer. And yet, I'm standing on your ship. Silent. Heavy. Unavoidable. You want to know what humans are, she said. We are survivors. We survived ice ages. We crossed oceans with nothing but wood. We lived through plagues, famine, war. And every time, we got back up. She stood directly in front of him now. Unshaken. Unbreakable. You can kill us, she said. You can burn our world. But you cannot make us surrender. Sirach felt it then. Something new. Something cold. Fear. Then you will all die, he said. Tors smiled. No warmth. No doubt. Some of us will. But not all. She turned away, as if the conversation was already over. There will always be survivors, she continued. And survivors remember. She looked back at him one last time. When we reach the stars, we will find you. Sirach lowered his weapon slightly. Then why am I still alive? Tors gave the answer. The one that would echo across the galaxy. Because you're going to deliver a message. 2 weeks later, 19 damaged Velreth ships returned home. Sirac stood before the Dominion Council. Defeated. Changed. He told them everything. The battles. The losses. The humans. When he finished, they asked, "What do you recommend?" Sirac didn't hesitate. Quarantine the Sol system. Mark it forbidden. Never return. The council stared in disbelief. Why, they demanded. Sirac looked at the star map, at the small yellow star called Sol, and said quietly, "Because if they ever reach us, they won't come to negotiate. They will come to finish what we started." He paused, then delivered the final warning. Tell every fleet. Tell every commander. Tell every world.